buenas tardes. Diré unas palabras en español y luego I'll speak English also. En primer lugar, muchísimas gracias a todos los que estáis aquí por tomar el tiempo de vuestras vidas, de nuestras vidas ajetreadas, para recordar en un día especial. Hoy es un día que todo ser humano digno de esa palabra debe parar un segundito y recordar de qué estamos hablando. El 27 de enero de 1945 marca la fecha clave de la liberación de los campos de concentración y de exterminio de Auschwitz-Birkenau. Una fecha que el mundo, y que en particular las Naciones Unidas, decidieron conmemorar para que recordemos siempre y que este terrible hecho que ocurrió, a pesar de lo que quieran decir algunos ahora, que ocurrió, no se pueda olvidar, no se pueda minimizar. Y por lo tanto, tenemos la obligación, todas las personas que queremos vivir en un mundo en el que esto no vuelva a repetirse, de hacer todo lo necesario para que esto se impregne en nuestros valores y seamos capaces de contarlo. Por eso quiero agradecer profundamente vuestra presencia aquí. Quiero agradecer también la labor que realiza Yad Vashem de manera constante a nivel mundial y sus esfuerzos aquí en España. Y quiero, y aprovecho para decirlo en inglés, I'd like to actually thank you very much, Michael, for being present here with us today. Michael Friedman, who has a very special and personal history regarding Babi Yar. And Sergei Loznitsa, thank you so much for being here with us. He's the movie director of this incredible documentary, which won the prize of the Cannes Film Festival in the documentary category. And I was very, very fortunate a few months ago to visit Kiev and to go to Babi Yar with my friend Angel Mas. Upon Michael's invitation, he said to us, you should come and visit because it's something very, very special. It was the 80th year anniversary of the massacre. And it really moved me, it really moved us. And I felt the need of having this documentary being brought here to Madrid. So I'm very, very happy about the fact that it is here, that the ones of us who are participating here today are going to be able to tell it, that this is part of a very important effort that is taking place in Spain, led by Madrid. We must all acknowledge the fact that the region of Madrid is really leading something incredible within our country. I want to thank you, Tony, for what you have done also from the cultural area of the Madrid region. I want to thank the president of the region, Isabel Díaz Ayuso, as today was mentioned by the Spanish press, that has led something fundamental, which is the education about the Shoah. This is a change in the curriculum of students in our country. So through these sort of changes, we make the world a better place. And this is exactly what we need to do, to remember and to do our part. So with that said, on behalf of the Fundación HispanoJudía, welcome to all of you. After the movie, there will be a few questions, a short session of Q&A from Sam to Sergei. And I hope, although it's difficult to say, I hope you'll enjoy it, but I hope that you will understand better what this was about, because behind every single image, there were people. I was very moved, Michael, by what you told us a few months ago, that 8 of your great-grandparents were assassinated in Babi Yar. So today we do this in remembrance of every single one of them, and thank you all for being here.
So, Sergei, thank you very much for your presence here. This is a fantastic testimony on a series of events that are not so well known in Western Europe with regards to the Shoah with bullets. We are more familiar with the Shoah in the death camps, but what you are showing here in a very, I would say, induced way, because you are not showing real pictures of the atrocities that they were committing. It's very impacting. I have to say that the set of questions I have prepared for this interview have nothing to do with what I'm going to say now, because anytime I watch the movie, I'm very moved. So I will start by saying a few words about you. Sergei started as a mathematician and specialized in cybernetics and artificial intelligence. And then he moved to become a producer of documentaries. Your career is very impressive. You have gone through several award-winning documentaries. And this one that you have produced in 2021 also has received an award. And as you say, the title is Babi Yar Context. And the context, you show it very well, is basically showing the different phases of the war in a very systematic way. Invasion, occupation, collaboration, liberation, revenge, and the end. What do they do with the memory? So the first question I would like to ask you is about the tragedy of the annihilation of a group of people that have been living in Ukraine for more than 3 centuries. Why do you think the population reacted with such coldness and cruelty with the neighbors and let it happen? We understand that in Germany, in other countries where there was a preparation for the destruction of the Jewish people by transforming them in an Untermensch and giving basically the right to kill them, it happened. But here it didn't happen. It was a completely different process. So why do you think that the Jewish population was annihilated in front of the eyes of their neighbors?
So, buenas noches. And first of all, I would like to thank for this possibility to show this film here today. And I would like to thank the Holocaust Memorial Babi Yar for giving this opportunity to us to make this film. Answering to your question, this is, it's a few answers for that. The Germans, they start to kill people when they crossing the border of Soviet Union. They made some tests at the beginning, and more kill during this entering. And they tried to provoke pogroms, like in Lvov, they provoked these pogroms, and in other cities also. In some cities, it was not necessary to provoke that. People did themselves, yeah, neighbors. And to explain carefully why, I have to explain the situation in Ukraine, for example. Yeah, because it was first as a West Ukraine. To say simply, it connects to the anti-Semitism. Yeah, it was in that time, in this place, and also, in the cities in Ukraine, the Jewish population, they're mostly living in the city, yeah, In Lvov, it was like 30% of Jewish population, and 60% is Polish people. And Ukraine, it was like 14–15%. But in general, for all these cities in the West Ukraine, the Ukrainian population in the cities is 5% in that time, average. And it was German, Polish, Russian, Jewish people. Yeah? And so in Kiev, for example, the situation was a little bit different, and they also tried to provoke pogrom, but it not happened. Because in East Ukraine, after revolution, this Jewish population lived together and start mixed, and happened that Jewish people have like wife and husband not Jewish, and it was more or less for 20 years it's normal relationship. They are not living in the separate. So, and it means that in different territory was a different relation to that. And also another factor is it was written by one of the high rank officer from SS after execution in Kiev. He wrote the report and he said that at the moment I realized that we don't need the Ukraine factor for keeping power in this territory because the society was such destroyed by Stalin and by previous authorities that people will follow any order because society atomized already. Enough for us. This is like quotation from his report. It explains a lot.
Thank you very much. So these Einsatzgruppen, three groups of SS started to follow the invasion and were annihilating basically all the villages and all with Jews and all the Jewish communities of any cities that were found. And that continued until basically the reoccupation of the territory by the Soviets. So the question is, when we saw these trials and we saw these testimonies on what has occurred, why is it that the Soviet Union decided to forget about it? Because it was part of the propaganda to show how cruel the invaders were.
You mean Soviet authorities?
Soviet authorities.
Like Stalin and after that the people after him? Because it was anti-Semitic society. First of all, and on this territory, which was occupied by Germans, including Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Belarus, and Ukraine, and Russia, was around 3 million Jewish people. And after that, after occupation, you know how many survived? Less than 1%. 25,000 people. 25,000. It tells a lot, you know. And the quotation from Grossman, which I used for the film, described carefully what happened.
Yes. Vasily Grossman spent quite a few pages describing the atrocities, yes.
Yeah, and it was published in Yiddish, in newspaper. Part of his article was published in Yiddish.
I thought he was, I mean, when was it published? I thought he was forbidden to be published at some point in time, Vasily Grossman in the Soviet Union. It's interesting that they managed to produce that piece of testimony. Anyhow, it doesn't matter.
This article, the part of this article was published in 1943 in the Jewish newspaper, which are small and it never translated to Russian. It was in Russian. It was printed in one magazine in Riga in 1990 during the Perestroika time, and but it was not translated to Ukraine.
I understand.
To whom it concerned.
Yes, I understand.
And even now.
So, do you mean by that in Ukraine, the population, most of the population don't want to remember what occurred during the German occupation, even today?
No, I don't think so, and no, it's more complicated. It's more complicated because people who they're like Ukraine nationalists who fight for independent Ukraine, part of them participate in the auxiliary Ukraine police in these units, and they participate in this execution. They did different kind of job, if it's a job. And now it's very difficult to divide the guilt and the, how to say, heroism of these people. Yes, and some of these people, they are hero, yeah, and you can find the names of these people, which the street name it of their name, and so and this it happened because people don't know the history, their own history, and it's difficult to tell that, to say that like the most popular nationalist Stepan Bandera, it's a hero, it's a terrorist. If you know his biography and what he did, and what they want even. And what they want, it was openly published and republished now, and this is nothing different from like Mein Kampf or this kind of books. So, but to say that these people was like fascist or national socialist, it's very difficult now. So, but they are. If you just look all this text which they produced and what they want, it's very, very like clear. And this is why Holocaust and Ukraine nationalism, it's kind of like opposition, or if Holocaust is no nationalism, if nationalism no Holocaust, I mean that this conversation cannot be cannot happen. Yes.
Coming back to your document, it will be very interesting to know how you managed to collect so much footage and so much proof of what has occurred. And also, I would like to ask you why you have structured the documentary in such a way, where you are showing long lines of prisoners, a lot of destruction, and the symmetry afterwards in the same way.
So, but I will tell, but I would like to come back to Ukraine situation, that I would like to add that the people who share the ideas of Ukraine nationalism, if we talk about the political parties, they are not popular. They are like in last election, they even not entered to the parliament 1.5%. It's normal, like average, normal percent for each pro-fascist parties, you know. And it means that they are very noisy in society. They publish a lot of noise. They produced a lot of noise in the media. But society, I'm not sure that support them. And the elections show us that. And this is why, you know, this film was criticized only in one country, in Ukraine. It tells a lot. And they can't say anything concrete, but they always saying that I don't know history. Okay. So, and if we come back to the footage, it is a footage from different archive. It's a German Bundesarchive and private archives and region archives, and also from Krasnogorsk Russian archive and Ukraine film archive in Kiev. We, because we have this possibility, we made a quite serious research everywhere, and we find some interesting and unknown footage, and even historians don't know that, for example, the speech of one of the main witness of the execution in Babi Yar, Dina Pronicheva, exists in the 8.5 minutes. So even the people who, like his profession, Babi Yar, historians who research and dig this material, and they didn't know that. So. And some explosion in Kiev. Kiev was exploded.
It's the main street of Kiev.
Yeah, main street of Kiev, and not only. It is like 956 building was destroyed. It's a center of the city, completely destroyed by the mine, which like a torpedo explode because of the remote control. Yeah. Yes, this is absolutely new in the war, and at the beginning nobody know what happened. So, and after that, this big explosion provoked execution.
You mean this destruction of the center of Kiev was provoked by the Soviets retiring, no?
It was mined by Soviet special troops before they leave city. They mined the city during few months. They mined Leningrad and Moscow too. You know, if Germans enter to Leningrad, we don't have this city at all. And so.
So I would like to come back to one element of your fantastic document. We very often hear the criticism towards the Jewish people that they didn't know how to fight or defend themselves. Although the Jews that were annihilated were civilians. When we see your document and we see those long lines of soldiers, which are professional fighters, which were equipped and did not oppose the German invasion, you really give a sense of what it means to oppose an army with an army and what it means to oppose an army with civilians. It has nothing to do. And I think that your document shows that very well, that although there were, I think, more than 3 million prisoners at the beginning of the war, they could not prevent the invasion at all. So I don't know if you had another objective when you showed all those lines of prisoners walking to go to a camp actually and be killed, because most of them were annihilated as well.
Yeah, but it was one of the biggest mistake. they did this mistake, and but they cannot in that time think in another way, because you can imagine the people from different places was recruited to army, and they don't have any will to fight for Stalin after everything what happened during the previous 20 years, like hunger and etc., etc. It's understandable, and not all of them, but quite a lot decide not to fight.
Okay.
It was a mistake. But when they realized, maybe some of them, that it was a mistake, it was too late. If they can act in another way in that moment, I'm not sure. This is a tragedy, because only from 5 million prisoners of war, Soviet prisoners of war, only 700,000 survived. And another thing, very important, that on German side it was 1,200,000, let's say not Russian, but from Russian Empire, people from Russian Empire and Soviet people fight as a soldiers in different position from Russian side. It has never happened in any war. I can't remember in history. It looks like a civil war. The civil war continue.
Right. So these images of collaboration in Ukraine, when the Germans arrive and when the German Gauleiter visits the area, and we see those images of reception and welcoming, you think that they also due to a reaction to the Soviet Union and an opposition to Stalin?
Not only, because Lvov, it is West Ukraine, it was a part, it never been Russian Empire. It was before the Rzeczpospolite or Republic, the Poland, and after in the end of 18th century, Poland was, Rzeczpospolite was divided between Prussia, Russia, and Austro-Hungary. It was 200 years Austro-Hungary, and in that territory was, I think, the best time for them. Austrian kingdom, they built theater, parliament, and all this beautiful building, and etc., etc. So, and the German language was familiar for them. Yeah, and some university was German language, and it is. They just and some people before in the First World War, some like the many of Ukraine nationalists, for example, they was an officer in the Austro-Hungarian army. It is a close relationship between them, and also the second thing that it was also in that time a second mistake was made. First time they made a mistake. I mean, the people who would like to build independent Ukraine, they made a mistake during the Brest-Litovsk Pact, peace treaty, when they made a separate agreement with German army, and German army occupied Ukraine for the food. They just received food for that, and the Ukraine they made by parliament thinking that the Germans will help them and protect them. It was a big mistake. And the second mistake, they thinking that also under the Third Reich they will receive from Germans possibility to build a state. And they announced already a state, but Germans said, no, 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 sorry, like in Lithuania. It never happened. So it was two mistakes, but the idea was made a separate state.
Bueno, Sergei, thank you very much. It's a fantastic testimony. Unbelievable. Together with Père Desbois, that I'm sure you know, it's unbelievable how much information we have gathered from what happened in the Eastern Front. I'm going to switch into Spanish if you don't mind. Yo quería agradecer a David y a la asociación por haberme dado esta oportunidad. De verdad lo considero un honor y sobre todo ante la magnitud del mensaje y del testimonio. Muchas gracias. Buenas noches.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Sergei. Unbelievable. 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 I have to tell you that.
We are all Jewish.